Welcome to the evening news on Skyline with us. Thank you for joining us. My name is Moreno Haniel. More than 40 persons have died and over 10 others rescued in a boat accident at Garau community of Goronyo River in Goronyo local government area of Sokoto State, while the National Inland Waterways Authority confirmed the accident and put the number of fatalities at 41. Sokoto State Police Command gave us the number of casualties as 46. The Police Public Relations Officer, Sokoto State Command DSP Ahmed Rufai said, out of 77 persons on board, 7 persons were rescued alive, 46 dead bodies recovered, while 24 persons declared missing. In another development, the Department of State Services DSS Sokoto State Command has warned of plans by terrorists and bandit groups to attack tertiary institutions across the state. The service says the attacks could lead to lecturers and other staff and their family members. The warning is contained in a security alert dated August 18th and addressed to Sokoto State government. The federal government has declared Tuesday, August 25, 2026, a public holiday to mark the year Eid-ul-Mawlid, commemorating the birth of Holy Prophet Muhammad. The Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji Ojo, announced the holiday on behalf of federal government in a statement issued by the Permanent Secretary of Ministry, Dr. Magdalene Ajani. Tunji Ojo congratulated Muslims in Nigeria and across the diaspora on the occasion, urging Nigerians to reflect on the values of compassion, humanity, and service associated with the life of the Prophet Muhammad. The presidential candidate of the Nigerian Democratic Congress (NDC), Peter Obi, has shared insight into the key messages he intends to deliver to Nigerians during the upcoming campaign ahead of the 2027 elections. Addressing journalists at a press conference in Onitsha, Anambra State on Friday, Obi suggested that his campaign will serve as a national dialogue focused on rebuilding Nigeria. Speaking on various sectors, Obi stated that he and his running mate, Rabiu Kwankwaso, come from diverse backgrounds and have different experiences, but share a common goal to improve the living standards of the impoverished amongst us. He urged Nigerians to seek direct answers from their leaders rather than through proxies or surrogates. Similarly, Vice President candidate of Nigeria's Democratic Congress (NDC), Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, has led the coordination and formal submission of the party's candidates across the 19 northern states and the Federal Capital Territory of 2027 general elections. Kwankwaso disclosed this in a Facebook post. He says the exercise was carried out in collaboration with the party's National Working Committee and candidates at various levels. He also said the process was successfully concluded on Thursday, August 20th, 2026, with formal presentation of the names of candidates to the NDC national leader, Senator Sariki Dixon. Election observers have hailed the 2026 Osun State governorship election as largely peaceful, but noting beavers hitches in part of the state issued by the observers led by the Public and Private Development Centers (PPDC). The partner said the conduct of the poll was largely orderly despite some technical and turnout challenges. The coalition, which deployed 450 trained observers across all 30 local government areas and more than 900 polling units, said the election recorded encouraging participation from young voters and timely opening of polling units. Meanwhile, the political fallout from the August 15 Osun State governorship election took a fresh twist yesterday as APC stakeholders blamed the party's defeat on alleged conduct of the former governor Boyega Oyetola, while the Nigeria Reset Movement accused Governor Ademola Adeleke of betraying his supporters. They are reaffirming his support for President Bola Tinubu ahead of the 2027 presidential election. In an open letter to the President, Bola Tinubu dated August 18, 2026, the Osun APC Stakeholders Forum claimed that Oyetola's alleged control of the party's leadership and structure, as well as distribution of federal appointments amongst his loyalists, had polarized the APC in the state more than a year before the election. The group accused the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, who is also immediate past governor of the state, of allegedly imposing candidates for elective positions while sidelining other party stakeholders. Lagos Deputy Governor Bafemi Hamzat has said that the state requires a larger budget to meet its growing infrastructural needs, citing rising costs and rapid population growth as major pressures. Hamzat made this known while featuring on the Fresh FM radio program monitored by the news agency of Nigeria in Lagos on Monday. He stated that although the government was investing heavily in key sectors, available resources remain inadequate to address the scale of demand. Governor of Borno State Babagana Zulum has called for stronger collaboration and co-investment to accelerate the state's economic recovery and sustainable development, stating that the state spent 70% of its yearly budget in past 7 years on internally displaced persons, refugees, reconstructions, and livelihood support due to insecurity. Support from the federal and the state governments, the United States, the United Nations development partners, international and financial institutions, and the private sector. Zulum spoke in Maiduguri at the fourth board meeting of the UN Offer Support to Borno Model and Steering Committee meeting of the Peace Building Fund on the UN response to mass exit from insurgency in northeast Nigeria. The 2027 presidential campaign began on a stormy but familiar terrain with the former vice president and presidential candidate of the African Democratic Congress, Atiku Abubakar, firing the first salvo of the thorny petrol subsidy removal that has defined the Bola Tinubu presidency. Reigniting the subsidy debate, Atiku has hinted at a return of the petrol subsidy regime, to which the presidency immediately fired back, describing Atiku's proposal to restore petrol subsidy if elected president in 2027 as retrogressive, accusing him of making the promise out of desperation for power. However, Atiku, in an effort to provide clarification, said he will not resurrect the old fuel subsidy regime in Nigeria if elected president in 2027 general election, explaining rather how he
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on Nightcomsat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Watch Skyline News on Nightcomsat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on Nightcomsat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
We really apologize for that long break in transmission. Now we move to business. The Nigerian equity market extended its bearish run on Thursday, August 20, 2026, as unit selling pressure across major sectors wiped out approximately 440.33 billion naira on Thursday market. The 8th consecutive trading session of losses, wiping out cumulative 5.4 trillion naira. The benchmark NGX All-Share Index ASI declined by 0.30 to close to at 240,370.80, down from 240,750.47 points recorded in the previous session, slipping nearly below the 240-point psychological level for the first time during the current correction. Consequently, market capitalization fell to 154.98 trillion naira from 155.42 trillion naira as investors continued taking profit in heavyweight energy and banking sectors led by Adel Holdings and UBA, Zenith Bank, Access Holding, and GTO, all closing lower. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) said the country's yearly oil and gas investment fell by about 22 billion naira between 2014 and 2023, dropping from about 24 billion naira to roughly 2 billion naira. The Commission's chief executive, Eyasan, noted that more than 90% decline in investment over the period had depleted the country's pool of geoscientists, petroleum engineers, and other critical technical professionals, raising concerns about the capacity required as investment and project development return to the sector. She said the prolonged investment contraction did not only affect capital spending and exploration activity, but also triggered corresponding erosion of human capital, with geoscientists among the first professionals to leave the industry when companies began cutting budgets. To Akwa Ibom State now, the governor, Pastor Umar Eno, has described the acquisition of the new Airbus aircraft for Ibom Air as a significant milestone, saying it reflects the consistency of his administration's investment in expanding the state-owned airline and strengthening the aviation sector. The governor, however, called on people of the state to reject decisive rhetoric and remain united, stressing that peace, unity, and collective development are essential to the progress of the state. The governor, who reacted to comments from some youth group of Oro and Ibibio extraction, made an ease for continuous peaceful coexistence. Now we move to the foreign scene. Beninese cyber active Steve has been released after serving 2-year prison sentence for charges including politically motivated insult and spreading false news. His case had become a prominent test of the government's treatment of critics and online dissent. Steve was released Thursday after completing a 2-year sentence. His lawyer and a relative confirmed this. Steve's prosecution was closely watched in Benin, where opposition figures and government critics have accused authorities of tightening restrictions on dissent. Still on foreign news, 20 migrants deported from the United States have arrived in Liberia, the first group of up to 1,200 people the West African country says it will receive under a new arrangement. The arrangement has drawn concern from immigration lawyers over the right of deportees sent to countries they do not call home. The 20 migrants landed at the Robert International Airport outside Monrovia on Thursday, marking the start of a program that will see many of 1,200 transferred from Liberia from the United States. Liberian authorities said the deportees may include nationals from Africa as well as people from North and South America and also the Caribbean. The Federal Bureau of Investigations (FBI) says stopped former U.S. Congressman Eric Swalwell in the airport and seized his electronic devices while also raiding his home in Washington, D.C. this weekend as part of a federal investigation into sexual misconduct allegations against him. After the allegations surfaced earlier this week, Swalwell dropped out of the California governorship race where he was in the lead and gave up his seat in the House of Representatives. He is also under criminal investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and Los Angeles Sheriff Department for accusation of rape and sexual assault. The FBI arrested a New York woman who was allegedly planning to bomb the state capitol building in Albany to kill lawmakers. Prosecutors allege Jessica Bowie, 35, had previously pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group. She is charged with providing material support or resources to a designated foreign terrorist organization. Bowie had repeatedly surveilled the building in advance and was carrying a fake bomb and a defective gun, which was being supplied to her by undercover agent, prosecutors said. Now we look into sports. The Sport Writers Association of Nigeria, SWAN Cross River State Chapter, has commended the state government for its renewed focus on sports development in the state, saying the efforts are yielding results in infrastructure, athlete performance, grassroots competitions, and youth engagement. In a statement signed by its chairman Michael Akpan, the association cited the upgrade of the VIP box at the UJ Stadium Calabar as one of the notable developments, saying the improvement has restored the facility's dignity and enhanced its use during sports events. The association also praised the qualification of the state's female football team, Pelican Stars, for the Nigerian Women Premier League, describing the feat as evidence of growing investment in women's football and grassroots talent development. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and Independent Corrupt Practice and Other Related Offences Commission have commenced investigation into the utilization of the 12 billion naira Federal Government Intervention Fund released to the Nigerian Football Federation for players' wages and bonuses. The fund was approved by President Bola Tinubu in 2024 to clear outstanding payments owed to Nigeria's national teams. Some officials reportedly linked to the matter had allegedly been invited by investigators and had provided statements. Now we move to entertainment stories. Nigerian music star Innocent Idibia, popularly known as Tubaba, has sparked reactions from fans after announcing his forthcoming album, Oldest Young Man. The singer shared the news on social media, revealing the intriguing title of the project and giving fans a glimpse into what they can expect from his next body work. Tubaba accompanied by the announcement with a relative message that appeared to hint at the experiences that have shaped him over the years. Still on entertainment, American singer, songwriter, and actress Mary J. Blige has opened up about her decision to remain child-free, loneliness, and how she has dealt with the painful experiences from her past. In a recent interview on IMO podcast, the Grammy-winning singer discussed music, healing, and her journey to becoming herself. Blanche explained that she once decided not to have children after watching many family members and other mothers struggle with childcare and lose some of their freedom. That's all we have this evening on Skyline News. Thank you for staying with us. I am your anchor, Maureen O'Hanel.
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Watch Skyline News on MyComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
You can watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app, available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
Ten, 9, ignition sequence starts.
Watch Skyline News on NightComSat and Free TV. Stay connected wherever you are by streaming us live on the Free TV app available for both iOS and Android devices via the App Store and Google Play. Follow us on all our social media platforms at Skyline TV News for breaking news, updates, and exclusive content. For more information, visit www.skylinetv.ng. Skyline News, beyond the headlines.
10, 9, ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Astronauts who went to the moon during the Apollo program traveled on a Saturn V with a launch weight in excess of 2.8 million kilograms. The command module, far less than 1% of the launch mass, returned to the Earth. The shed stages and even the charred capsule could not be reused. Spaceflight was very expensive. In the early 70s, the Nixon administration favored a reusable space transportation system, commonly known as the Space Shuttle. It was expected to reduce costs and provide regular access to space for paying customers.
5, 3, 2, 1, 0, and liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis.
NASA had to develop new high-performance reusable main engines, advanced avionics, and a reusable thermal protection system to enable the orbiter to make repeated re-entries into the Earth's atmosphere. Development of these technologies proved to be very challenging. The very earliest proposals for spaceflight had imagined a winged spaceship returning to the ground to be used again. At its foundation, NASA's Space Task Group had inherited the X-15 rocket-powered research aircraft. It was the result of a study made by Walter Dornberger, commanding officer of the German V-2 development program. The X-15 was intended to gather data about hypersonic speeds and very high-altitude flight. Essentially, it was a fuel tank and a rocket motor with short wings and a cockpit. It was fueled with anhydrous ammonia and liquid oxygen, with highly concentrated hydrogen peroxide driving the turbopumps that delivered the fuel and oxidizer. The engine could be throttled by varying the speed of the turbopumps. The X-15 began operation in 1959 as a partnership between NASA and the US Air Force, which was keen to develop a space plane. Mounted beneath the wing of a B-52, it was carried to more than 13,000 meters before it was air-launched. The X-15's engine would fire for around 1 minute. At the peak of high-altitude flights, the pilot had no aerodynamic control. The plane had thrusters for basic maneuvers above the atmosphere. When the fuel was depleted, the craft returned to a dry lake bed in the Mojave Desert. Data gathered during this unpowered return to Earth was of huge benefit to the developers of the Space Shuttle, which had to make similar high-speed, dead-stick landings. Some of the X-15 pilots became household names, including Neil Armstrong, who made 7 X-15 flights, and the aircraft contributed significantly to the manned space program. Yet, even as the X-15 flights continued, NASA and the Air Force began testing a new lifting body concept that held out hope for the shape of spacecraft to come. In 1963, a plywood wingless demonstration aircraft began flights towed behind a Pontiac convertible. They called it the Flying Bathtub.
3, 2, 1, 0.
At this time, NASA was committed to the ballistic re-entry concept necessary for the blunt body, heat shield type of spacecraft being built for the Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo programs. This meant a fleet of naval ships had to be on standby in each of the major oceans when a spacecraft was launched, which was very expensive. The Kennedy deadline was approaching, and the Apollo program was reaching its climax. The huge and very expensive Saturn V had taken a crew to lunar orbit in 1968, and then both Apollo 11 and Apollo 12 made successful lunar landings in 1969. Apollo missions extending out to Apollo 20 had been scheduled, but at this point the last 3 missions were suddenly cancelled. The White House was back in Republican hands, and the new president, Richard Nixon, although he was keen to bask in the reflected glory of the Apollo astronauts, also wanted to save money.
That this is the beginning of a new era.
After the return of the hugely successful Apollo 15 mission, Nixon tried to scrap the remaining Apollo program, but was persuaded by the director of the Office of Management and Budget to let NASA finish its last 2 lunar missions. It was obvious that NASA's blank check days were coming to an end. NASA and the Air Force had continued to explore the lifting body concept with flight tests of the much heavier HL-10 starting in 1966. It was built to NASA specifications by Northrop. The hope was that a new generation of spacecraft could re-enter the atmosphere and land at a designated strip, saving the costly mid-ocean recovery. The HL-10 was equipped with a small rocket motor and was air-launched, just like the X-15. Telemetry allowed a ground team to monitor the craft's behavior. Ultimately, the HL-10 reached heights in excess of 27,000 meters and a speed of Mach 1.86. Again, the most valuable data gathered during the HL-10 program came from the unpowered return phase of flight. Like the X-15, it dropped rapidly while generating very little lift, just like a spacecraft. When the lifting body program concluded in 1970, it was just one of many concepts being investigated by NASA and the US Air Force. Various companies hoping for lucrative contracts were also submitting designs. NASA had wide-ranging ambitions for the post-Apollo future, but the Nixon administration, which had continued cutting funds for the space program, directed the agency to focus on low Earth orbit with a reduced budget. Some of the scrapped Saturn V launchers were repurposed for an orbital space station that became known as Skylab, while the remaining Saturn rockets became billion-dollar museum pieces. Skylab successfully demonstrated the value of an orbiting laboratory. Pure crystals were grown in microgravity, and a solar telescope enabled new studies of the Sun. But without means to boost Skylab's orbit, it could only ever be a temporary outpost. NASA began planning a more permanent space station for the distant future. Its construction would rely on a new spacecraft called the Shuttle. It might be expensive to develop, but ultimately it would cut the cost of access to space. The various concepts featured two stages: a booster that would fly back to the launch site, and an orbiter that would fly back to the ground at the completion of the mission. All were too expensive for the administration in Washington. Finally, a compromise design was reached. Relatively inexpensive solid-fueled boosters would serve as a first stage, and the orbiter would have a huge external tank that would be discarded nearing orbit. But it took years for the concept to be tested to the point where plans could be drawn up. Lockheed had devised a lightweight thermal tile with such promising insulating properties that it made the winged concept feasible. Single-use capsule spacecraft had a heavy phenolic resin heat shield that burned away during re-entry. A reusable spacecraft needed a reusable heat shield, and Lockheed's lightweight silica tiles meant heavy, heat-resistant titanium alloys could be dispensed with in favor of a more conventional aluminium superstructure protected by the tiles. NASA was collaborating with the Air Force on the new spacecraft, and because of military requirements, the design was much larger than most of the early concepts. Work began on the first shuttle in 1974. Initially named Constitution, it was intended for approach and landing tests within the atmosphere. It lacked a heat shield and engines. It was first seen in public at a ceremony as it was rolled out of the Rockwell plant in California. A letter-writing campaign had convinced NASA to rename it Enterprise, after the spacecraft in Star Trek, a TV show that enjoyed modest success at the time. The Enterprise's first trip was by road to the Dryden Flight Research Center. It took 10 hours for the spacecraft to make the 58-kilometer journey to begin a series of captive flights known as approach and landing tests. The Enterprise was unable to fly without assistance, so NASA had purchased the surplus 747 from American Airlines. It had been reinforced with special attachment pylons and extra stabilizers added. At Dryden, a complex framework had been constructed to lift the shuttle onto the back of the airliner. 4 astronauts, in 2 crews, would carry out the first test flights. Fred Hayes had flown on the Apollo 13 mission. His co-pilot was Gordon Fullerton. Joe Engle had made 3 X-15 flights, and his co-pilot was Dick Truly. Enterprise did not have thermal tiles. Instead, it had a dummy fiberglass coating, and it was fitted with a nose spike housing an airspeed indicator. Tests began in 1977. A series of taxi runs, followed by captive flights, were made to confirm designers' expectations. Initially, a tail cone was fitted to reduce turbulence around the rear of the spacecraft. In August, Enterprise made its first free flight. With the carrier aircraft in a shallow dive, the shuttle was easily able to pull away and fly autonomously. The new spacecraft handled well. Four successful free flights followed.
We're at the end of the approach and landing test phase of this program, but it's really not an end at the beginning. It's just a small step really accomplished toward getting the orbiter into space, and then in that aspect, I'm looking forward to more of the same exciting times as we continue on toward that first orbital flight.
Back at the Rockwell plant, a second spacecraft was taking shape. Columbia would be the first space-worthy shuttle. It was being fitted with thermal tiles and the new RS-25 engines. Both were giving trouble. The glue being used to stick the tiles to the aluminium skin of the aircraft was failing within hours. The radically new engines operated more efficiently because of their much higher chamber pressures. But there were developmental problems. Because the shuttle main engines were positioned off-center relative to the external tank and solid boosters, they had to be able to pivot over plus or minus 10.5 degrees in both axes, as the shuttle stack dropped stages and as fuel was depleted. During the first 2 minutes of flight, the major thrust would come from the solid rocket boosters. These too had to have vectored thrust, and the nozzles could move through plus or minus 8 degrees. Again, Columbia had to be transported by road to the Dryden Flight Research Center to be loaded onto the carrier aircraft that would take it to Florida. It was obvious that difficulty with the thermal tiles had not yet been solved. Columbia landed at the Kennedy Launch Center in 1979. While it had arrived with only a partial covering of tiles, tests revealed that even those tiles would have to be removed and reapplied after a densification process. Shifts of technicians working around the clock took 20 months to complete this process. Meanwhile, the first external tank was shipped from the Michoud Assembly Center in Louisiana. It was painted white to protect its outer layer of insulation from ultraviolet damage. By 1980, the shuttle main engines had emerged from their long developmental phase, achieving NASA specification of 65,000 seconds of testing. requirements for the engine to be reusable and be capable of throttling down to 65% had been met. The first 3 engines arrived at the Cape and were fitted to Columbia. The original launch date had been delayed by 2 years. At the end of 1980, Columbia rolled out of the vehicle assembly building for Pad 39A. Before it could fly, it had to complete a final certification test that included a 20-second firing of the 3 main engines.
9, 8, 7, 6,
Officially known as the
5,
wet
4,
countdown demonstration test, it verified all the systems on the ground and in the spacecraft.
running. And we have had shutdown of all 3 engines.
Astronauts John Young and Bob Crippen would fly the first mission. It would be the first time a new spacecraft flew with a crew on board. On April the 12th, 1981, Columbia was ready to fly.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start.
The first 4 flights would all be devoted to testing the spacecraft, and the flight profile for the first mission was designed to minimize stress on the orbiter. The payload bay was empty except for a flight recorder that captured data from an array of sensors. NASA needed to understand the difference between theoretical predictions of the orbiter's behavior and its actual handling. The payload bay doors had heat-dissipating radiators on their inner sides to keep the orbiter cool. When they first opened, the astronauts were surprised. At launch, an overpressure wave had damaged lower areas of the orbiter, including thermal tiles. Young and Crippen maneuvered their craft into a position that allowed a US spy satellite to photograph its underside, but no tile damage could be seen. All the orbiter's basic functions were verified over the 2-day flight, and the craft returned safely to runway 23 at Edwards Air Force Base.
5, 4, 3, touchdown. Welcome home, skipper. Welcome home, Columbia. Beautiful, beautiful.
Columbia's first mission was declared a success, with Crippen and Young having nothing but praise for the new spacecraft. The shuttle was readied for its flight back to Florida, where it would be prepared for its next launch. And there was a long list of worrying anomalies that would have to be addressed before Columbia could fly again. Columbia was towed from the landing strip to the processing facility at the Kennedy Space Center. This first ever preparation of a spacecraft for its second flight to space was to be meticulous. As well as the scheduled tasks, like refurbishing the main engines and checking the thermal protection, the orbiter was checked for damage. Spacecraft tend to evolve. If something breaks or malfunctions, it is not repaired, it's redesigned. Columbia was already lighter than the Pathfinder Enterprise, and engineers building Challenger, the next shuttle, were already incorporating improvements. As a result of anomalies encountered on the first shuttle flight, Columbia and its emerging sister spacecraft were all modified. The most pressing issue was the loss of 16 thermal tiles and damage to a further 148 from shock waves during launch. The shock had bent Columbia's body flap so far out of alignment that engineers were surprised it still functioned. This resulted in extensive redesign of the sound suppression system at Pad 39. a 1 million litre water tank was built that began flooding the flame pit 6 seconds before the main engines were started, reducing the impact of reflected shock waves. It took 7 months to prepare Columbia for its second flight. The initial aim was to have a 2-week turnaround, but engineers knew there was still a lot to learn about their new spacecraft, and as yet there was still only one shuttle rather than a fleet of 4, which was still taking shape.
Countdown now being conducted by...
The second flight began in November 1981. It was the last time the external tank was painted white. Originally as protection against the sun, the paint was not needed, and leaving the tank its natural orange color saved almost 300 kilograms.
We have the main engine start. And liftoff. Liftoff of America's space shuttle, and the space shuttle has cleared the tower.
Astronauts Joe Engle and Dick Truly had not flown in space before, and on the ground, Sally Ride became the first female Capcom. While a failed fuel cell caused Columbia's return after 2 days instead of the scheduled 5, the mission was regarded as a success.